You what's good? It's your boy Everything Water, and water is everything my familiar. Listen, I got for you guys the most underrated void build in Destiny 2 for hunters. Man, I'm telling you, this void build goes crazy. Yes, I'm gonna be using the Gyrfalcons, and yes, gonna be using the trace rifle that you guys might not know, but yeah. If you guys like this type of video, man, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm telling you, this build is so underrated, so much fun. Y'all gonna like it. Let's get straight into the video. For our armor exotic, we got the Gyrfalcons. Obviously, the Gyrfalcons is it's mandatory for this build. So having this, basically what this does is going invisible gives you voluntary rounds. Well, killing an enemy will give you voluntary rounds, and making you going invisible, every enemy you kill with voluntary rounds will make you invisible, making it an infinite invisible voluntary rounds type of perk. Now again, this is one of the best exotics in the game, second best hunter exotic in my opinion. So yeah, if you guys do not have the Gyrfalcons, please go ahead and do those lost sectors, get the Gyrfalcons. This weapon is good for any void weapon. That's what makes this exotic so OP, is it doesn't matter the void weapon you're using, you're still gonna be doing crazy amount of ad clear for any red bar and doing a decent amount of damage to any higher level enemies with that, because of the voluntary rounds you get, and void just being crazy buff with this season 2 with the artifacts you get too. So yeah, get this exotic. Alright, for our exotic weapon, we're using the ruinous effigy. Now this weapon, I didn't know there was another trace rifle void weapon. Like again, I came back to this game back in February of this year when Lightfall came out, so I wasn't really, I was just getting my exotics. I didn't really know too much, so this weapon is crazy, and I believe it's way better than the wave spitter in my opinion. It's not as good as the graviton lance with the latest buff of graviton lance for PvE, but it's so much more fun, I'm telling you. Now basically what this weapon does is final blows with this weapon collapse victims into void transmutation spears. Now basically these little spears you get, and this, by the way, this weapon does crazy damage. The catalyst takes quite some time to max to get, to complete. I'm gonna be honest, it takes a little longer than usual, even with the easiest route of leveling you have that level up things normally fast. This takes a little while, so bear with it. By the way, if you don't have the catalyst, I don't blame you. It's pretty long to get, but this weapon right here is beautiful. The spears you have, when you do a little slam dunk, it does between on regular content, like if I'm doing any type of content, it's like 60 to 70k. 70k when it's buffed with voluntary rounds, and void, it's a void buff too if you have. This weapon is crazy. It's so much fun when I'm using this spear. I'm killing enemies, going invisible. This is ridiculous, man. Everybody should try out this weapon with the Gyrfalcons. Every hunter should try out this weapon with the Gyrfalcons. I'm telling you, this weapon goes crazy. This weapon goes crazy. Right, now we're gonna get into the subclass and how to make this build even better. Let's get into that. Our void subclass, we're gonna be starting off, we're gonna be using Shadow Step Deadfall. This is more of like a void anchor. It gives debuffs and weakens enemies, so that debuffs them and it lasts longer. You could go with Mobius Quiver, but I prefer the Deadfall, because Mobius Quiver is more for damage. It does volatile enemies, but because you got Gyrfalcon's Hauberk for your exotic armor, Deadfall is the best to go. You can use, now for our abilities, you can use Gambler's Dodge or Marksman, doesn't really matter. I prefer to reload my melee to weaken more enemies, but if you want to reload your weapons, you can do that too. For grenades, I am using Vortex Grenade because it can pull enemies in. If you want to, you can use any other grenades. It doesn't really matter, honestly. Now for our aspects, I am using Shadow Extinguisher. For our aspects, I'm using Stylish Executioner. Now defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile targets grants invisibility and true sight. This is going to add on to your Gyrfalcon, so as long as you're being able to weaken enemies and become invisible, you're constantly going to have voluntary rounds. And then for our other aspect, we're using Vanishing Step. Obviously this is just making you invisible. You could use Trapper's Ambush, but again, you're going to be invisible with both, so it works both ways. Now for our aspects, this is really simple. I think this is more of like a go-to everybody uses. For me, Depending on the content, I'm always going to be having these. For my first aspect, I'm using Echo of Vigilance. Defending a target while your shields are depleted grants you a temporary void overshield. You guys will see multiple times. Sometimes I do get reckless to the point where I lose my shield or I'm on red bar. So killing an enemy gives me an automatic overshield, which does last a pretty long. It says temporary, but it lasts a pretty long. And with this build, you're constantly gonna have your health, so this is really useful just in case you're not killing any enemies and you're getting hit pretty hard in harder content. For my next fragment, I'm gonna be using Echo of Persistence. Void buff applies to invisibility, overshield, and Devour has increased duration. Again, if you get a temporary overshield, this is gonna have increased duration. That's why it's a lot longer with this fragment. Also, everything else like Devour, invisibility, which this whole build is based off granting Devour and having invisibility, so that's a key point. I'm also using Echo of Expulsion. Void ability, final blows causes targets to explode. This is really good again because you're going to be killing enemies so fast, especially with the weapons we're going to be using. Now for our last fragment, we're going to be using Echo of Starvation. Picking up a Void Breach or Overpower grants you Devour. You're going to be making so many Void Breaches and you're going to be making so much orbs, so having Devour is going to be almost infinite. So this build, you're going to constantly have health. So this is a perfect build for any content. Screenshot this if you need to. Now we're going to get into the rest of our weapons and mods we have in our artifacts. Weapons, obviously we got the legendary Riptide. This is one of the best weapons in the game. This weapon right here can stun all variants of champions. One of the best weapons in the game. Use this for any content, especially in-game content. Now obviously we got the ruinous effigy. This is the most underrated trace rifle. I just knew about this a couple days ago. I didn't even know this weapon exists. By the way, I did come back to Destiny 2 in February, so you know, don't come at me too much. But yeah, this weapon is crazy. Obviously, we got the hot head. If you have auto loading holster, use that with explosive light. That's a perfect build. I don't have that yet. I need to get it, so yeah, use that. Now for our stats, obviously you can see I'm going max resilience and max discipline. Now honest truth, you're not really going to be using your grenade too much on this build, so I prefer, if you can, instead of going high discipline, go high intellect. You want to get your super as fast as possible, in my opinion, so that's really good. But if you can do discipline, is still fine. Being able to throw your nade more times than usual. Then in any content in PvE, you want to have max out resilience in any content. That is mandatory for all variants, for warlocks, hunters, and titans. Well, maybe not titans, but I prefer high resilience in any content, just in case. Well, these right here are my mods. You guys can go ahead and screenshot these if you need to. Typical stuff right here. Screenshot this part. These are also my artifact mods too. You want to make sure you have onto the breach. You want to make sure you have protective breach, and you want to make sure you have supernova. These are all void based artifacts. Make sure you have these for your artifacts. It just gives you, picking up a void breach creates your a source of void damage to create a large weakening pulse. This is crazy. Make sure you have these artifacts. Is gonna make your build 20 times better. But yeah, man, if you guys like this type of video, man, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm gonna give you guys a little clip at the end of me using this build. Go crazy with it. But yeah, it's your boy Everything Water, and water is everything. My familia. We out.